Mixed systems have an internal inconsistency because the market economics presuppose an absence of order and rules. On the other hand, directed economy is the other. It doesn't take characteristic norms of common law. If you try to come up with something that is intermediate, you would condemn society to failure. Social democracy in Europe is an example of that. After several decades of application of these mixed systems, they can say so. In the long run, these mixed forms of legal and economic organizations, because they are contradictory, they're not able to be sustained and supported, and they converge into a directed order or totalitarian order, such as thesis taxis type. Now, the issue of evolution in social sciences. Societies have always been spontaneous orders ever since the first tribal groupings to modern civilization. So societies have evolved not as the result of planned reason, but upon processes of ongoing changes, of evolutionary processes that are not like biological evolutionism proposed by Darwin. Evolutionism in social science is not an extension of Darwinian biological evolutionism. The truth, actually, it's the other way around. It was Charles Darwin who applied to biology the concept of evolution, of social evolution. So the belief that the theory of evolution is composed by the laws of evolution is completely wrong, because you cannot talk about laws and defined sequences to which the evolution of the social institutions should be subordinated to. So it's not possible to establish models for prediction of future trajectories of social phenomena. In other words, the evolution of societies does not follow a predefined course of action. It's actually a process of trials and errors, and fundamentally of a cultural nature, because it does not result from neither the instinct nor reason. The issue now of democracy and division of powers is our third topic. Summing up, I'm a little concerned with the time I have. I said I have 140 years to cover in 45 minutes, so I'm going to sum up. Democracy cannot be seen as an end in itself, but as a means to ensure that elected governors can play their role according to general rules and not by using decrees that express their own desires. On the other hand, it should have mechanisms to prevent the abuses of the majority in the parliament and to impose limits to the performance of party. I thought of a certain political party here in Brazil, but I'm not going to mention any names or any alliance in office. The purpose of democracy for Hayek, for example, is to ensure true separation between the three powers. The traditional powers, which is, in spite of good intentions from the modern constitutional state, has never been fulfilled. Because traditionally, the legislative power and the governmental power, the executive power, have always been mixed in the legislative assemblies. And over time, democratic institutions have been shaping themselves according to the needs of the democratic governments, even more than trying to find out more general, appropriate rules, trying to serve the public good. The fourth element now. Contention of power, power contention. The great challenge in organizing a social order to ensure individual liberties and respect and compliance with general norms of behavior is to limit this power. Political philosophy, Austrian political philosophy, is not an abstract model because it's based on the evolution of common law, English common law, a legal system that upon the solution of concrete cases based on such over many centuries, they have discovered individual freedoms. The evolution of political institutions that have limited the powers of the state is based on this same ground. I'm going to sum up a little bit now. I'm going to skip now a couple of paragraphs. Now, the next topic is the critique to constructivism. Many of the controversies existing in the scientific field, especially in the political field, result from basic philosophical schools with their differences. Even though we refer to both of them as rationalism, I think there is a difference here. It's better to make a difference between evolutionary rationalism, according to Karl Popper, critical rationalism, and constructivist rationalism, according to Popper, once again. This Cartesian rationalism, when it's translated into social sciences, it does generate the idea that the mind and human mind and reason would be capable by themselves to enable man to construct society again. This rationalist pretension that Hayek called constructivism or social engineering originated from Plato, strengthened in Descartes, and also found in Hegel and Marx its followers. When confronted with the evolutionary rationalism championed by the Austrian school, then liberal thought and constructivist rationalism was shown to be, for those who like to see, it's naive in its beliefs, extremely arrogant in its gnosiology, the way it makes its diagnosis, and dangerous in its practical experimentations in modern societies, as the history of the 20th century can attest to. For us to understand this phenomenon, I'd recommend the reading of Eric Voegelin's work, especially on Hitler and the Germans. It's a very good book, even though it's a philosopher who doesn't belong to the Austrian school. Now, summing up, there are clear limits to knowledge that hinder constructivist experiences to be successful. Now, let's talk about epistemology. Epistemology, or the study of scientific knowledge, usually divides sciences between factual sciences, when they're based on observation and experimentation. You have real objects of study, and synthetic judgments, that is, in which the result is not verified based on the subjective analysis. For example, Fluminense soccer team fan. Because by analyzing the definition of fan, you cannot infer that it has good taste because he is a Fluminense soccer team fan. Or else it could be formal sciences when it has entities of reason, because it uses the deductive axiomatic method, inferring a number of theorems based on certain axioms and non-demonstrational propositions, and make analytical judgments in which the result is inferred from the analysis of the subject. For example, God is infinitely wise. Then you can infer by analyzing the concept of God. Economics, according to the Austrian school, is a factual deductive method. Even though it doesn't study the entities of reason, it doesn't employ the experimental method. It's a deductive science, because its laws do not derive from what has been observed in several cases, but they are rather inferred based on general premises. The Austrian analysis starts with analyzing and examining formal implications of human action as considered by an essential characteristic of everything that is economic. Menger said that individualism, according to his studies, is linked to his subjectivist method. By dealing with individual choices, this would lead to the study of the individual. The results of markets have to be explained in terms of the individual acts of choice thereby practiced in such markets. Economy has to deal with thoughts and individual evaluations that come before and serve as a ground for such choices, and not as interrelations between objective magnitudes. This understanding of methodological individualism includes the critique to excesses of quantification and holistic insights such as macroeconomics. Now, models versus facts in social sciences. In Scientism and the Study of Society, Hayek asks what are the facts in social sciences, and stressing that they cannot be managed as physical objects, as in natural sciences, but rather as definitions that have to come from the will of people as they're acting. This means that, for example, in economics, it doesn't matter if a certain currency, if a certain coin is gold or copper or nickel, or if a bill is issued by the central bank is either green, blue, or red. What matters is that the currency or the coin is a trade, it's a means for trade, it's how it's used by human actions. So the coin or the currency cannot be explained if you don't refer to it as the interaction between individuals. Professor Gabriel Zanotti, in one paper called Hayek and La Filosofia Cristiana, he demonstrates that the gnoseologic perspective of Hayek, as he defends what are the facts of social sciences, and at the same time the methodological individualism, it's nominalist and new Kantian. That is, it relates the methodological individualism with the ontological individualism, for which there are only individuals and universalized essences in our minds do not have a real ground. And Zanotti goes on saying, quote, general definitions according to which we study individual interactions do not refer to a really existing essence, but to mental general models that have been formulated before any observation, to which Hayek refers to the limitation of knowledge and to spontaneous order. End of quote. Now, the characteristics of social sciences. They have to be led with different methods as those used by the natural sciences, because they shouldn't use inductive method, but general methods based on complex social interactions. And the results cannot be verified by means of controlled experiments, but they may be denied by falsifying, by observing facts. So the Austrians reject the positivist method in social sciences and in economics. These sciences, they have no reason to copy the methods of natural sciences, nor its scientists have to feel inferiorized for this reason, because the central issue that many economists seem to ignore is that their methods of study, their characteristics and objectives are completely different from those from natural science, from the ethical point of view and from the anthropological point of view too. So we would deny any forecast in social sciences. That would be the natural flow of things. Now, summing up this topic, ever since I read Human Action, I had a new classical background. I studied at the Getúlio Vargas Institution. It was almost as a branch of the Chicago School. We had mathematical and econometric methods that explained everything. But ever since I read Human Action, there was an Austrian book I read at the time, and based on that, I decided to study Austrian economists. And I always wondered, and journalists and students asked me, what would be the inflation rate a certain month? What's going to be the inflation rate? I always had a number, a figure to give them based on some econometric model. Ever since I turned into an Austrian school follower, my answer became, I don't know. And scientifically based, I don't know.